Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of What's Happening in Tampa Bay Live. I'm excited to be with you guys. I am with our hostess with the mostest, the rock star in Pasco County, Miss Stacy Amon. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you tonight?
I'm excited. I'm very excited because we are going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, which is giving me my money back. And if you didn't see the thumbnail tonight, y'all, Governor DeSantis has floated the idea of abolishing property taxes in the state of Florida. And let me just tell you, I am a proponent, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. And Stacy and I we're excited to get into this with y'all tonight. We got some other things to cover, of course. We're going to talk about homestead exemptions and other things like that. But this is top news and top priority, and I think we definitely want to get into it. And I'm excited. Stacy, this is one of our most frequently asked questions when we, get on a Zoom call with clients who are relocating to the area, or our local clients as well. How much are the taxes? What are the property taxes? And two things are happening right now all across the country. And I've got a lot of things to show you guys. So I'm going to start by showing you the quote that Governor DeSantis put out on X, formerly known as Twitter. We're going to get into that. Of course, we're going to say hello to all of our wonderful viewers and everybody who joins us in this community every single week, because we absolutely love hanging with you guys, don't we, Stacy?
We do. We look forward to it every Tuesday.
It's awesome. The questions you guys have during their live streams are amazing. Those are what build a lot of our videos that we publish on Saturday. So don't hesitate to put those comments in there. And we love just interacting with you. Let us know where you're watching from. If you got questions, feel free to ask them. But we definitely want to say hello to everyone before we get into this article and really get in the weeds here. Good evening, Desiree. We've got Mr. Fritch up in Michigan. What's up, my man? Shout out to my home state, my previous home state. I'm no longer a Michigander. I'm a Floridian. I've been here for 6 years. It's a long time now, right? Love that. Oh, we got a local watching from Parrish. Good evening, Mr. Abreu. Good to see you, sir. Vlad's in the house. Stacey is all right with the world now. I think all is right with the world. We got Desiree and Vlad. As soon as Corey comes in, we know we'll be in good shape. Green Ranger, what's up? Hello from Virginia. Good evening, sir. Good to see you again. Mr. Cook, it is Taco Tuesday. I love it. Yeah. Shout out to Brian and Abby. Abby sent me a photo on Instagram yesterday of Brian snow throwing. And she was like, I think this was the last straw. So looking forward to seeing you soon, sir. Yeah, those temperatures, I saw them coming up this week too. And I called my mother-in-law. I was like, or text them. I was like, best of luck to you guys. Best of luck. All right. Jane says, hello, everyone. I got so excited reading what you're going to discuss today. No more Florida property taxes. Wow, can't wait to move there. Yeah, love it. Well, we're going to all be on the same page celebrating if this takes place. And we're going to talk about that for sure. Absolutely. How do we actually... we actually did have tacos. Love it. It's Taco Tuesday. You're supposed to have tacos. Absolutely. Sinhola 75. Hello. Good evening. Kevin, my brother. What is up? Good to see you. Got Pete in Pennsylvania in the house. Oh, now we're getting serious. We're big timing right now, Stacey.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Shout out to Aloha from Hawaii, Maui. We went to Honolulu. I think that is like 6,000 miles from where we're at right now. So shout out to Honolulu. Love that. Corey is in the house. Fantastic. Tuning in from C-Bus. He says, Desiree, Sassy, Vlad, Chris, Lobo. Hope all of you had a great weekend. A little bit chilly in Ohio. And then we got Bill out in Riverview. Good evening, Bill. Good to see you, sir. Good evening. Love it. Yeah. It's funny, right? 6,000 miles, a long flight, my man. Long flight. David from Arizona. Good evening, sir. We got Zach out in Boston. Shout out to Zach. Y'all are coming in hot and heavy to start with, but let's get into this, Stacy. I know that this is going to be a very interesting topic, and let me just first and foremost start by saying that I'm not a politician. I don't play one on TV, and I really don't care what color this is coming from. If someone comes to me and says, hey, Juan, we would like to remove your property taxes, I am going to say I would love to entertain this conversation. Now, I'm sure I'm probably not the only one who's interested in having that conversation with all of our politicians. Good evening, Susan. Shout out to Bradenton. Love it. Love it. So, I got to get into this topic, Stacy, and it came across, I saw it yesterday and I was like, oh man, I can't wait to see the news on this and really get into the weeds, because I think this is what we definitely need to be talking about. So let me just read an article here for you guys. I know this is a little bit small. Let me try to blow it up a little bit, but we'll get to the gist of it. And then I'll show you some things that we can really get in the weeds with. All right. DeSantis wants to ban property taxes in Florida. Everybody, collective.
Yeah.
Let's do that. All right. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said he wants to eliminate property taxes in the state, and we are with you, sir. In a post on X, the governor said that taxing land and property is more than oppressive and ineffective form of taxation, and I couldn't agree more. Absolutely, sir. All right. Property taxes are local, not state. This is quoting DeSantis directly. Says, so we need to do a constitutional amendment, which will require 60% of the votes to approve. Stacy, do you think he's going to have a hard time getting that from us?
I do not. Not at all.
I don't think so either. But which I would support, he says, or even to reform and make them lower, which I think ultimately will probably be the route that they take. We should put the boldest amendment on the ballot that has a chance of getting that 60%. And well, I'm here to I am in full support of the complete removal of all of it. But I do want to talk about what that means, and this article will get into that a little bit. But I'm gonna share with you why and my views on it. And I'm sure Stacy and you guys we can all chat it up together. Let us know your thoughts in the chat. I can't wait to hear you guys' thoughts on this. All right. Though Florida's statewide budget mostly comes from sales tax, and our sales tax, depending on where you live, varies. I think we're 7.5% in downtown Tampa and 7% in Pasco County. We're somewhere in that range, depending on where you're at, right? You have the state tax, and then sometimes they'll put a state tax on top of it. All right. So it's property taxes fund crucial services like police, fire, and schools, which is very true. So we definitely need to figure out what we're going to do with that. And then as this article continues, says, according to CoreLogic data, which is a really nice website that we use, and a lot of real estate hedge funds and those types of things use their data because it's fairly accurate. The median 2024 property tax in Florida was $3,101, a 9.5% increase over the prior year and up 47% from 2019. Now, I know that's not exclusive of Florida, but I wanted to share that with you guys. Now, areas like Dade County and Miami and Broward County have the highest taxes in the state, but we already knew that. They have the highest property values too. All right. Here's where the article gets pretty interesting. Nationally, the highest effective property tax rates in 2023 were in the Northeast and Midwest states, led by Illinois, New Jersey, Connecticut, New York, and Nebraska. All right. Now, when you look at those tax rates there, Stacy, we're pretty close to those tax rates, but we're still not as expensive as those guys. And I know we come in a little bit lower. My effective tax rate in Largo, where I live, is 1.38. Right. And it varies depending on where you live in Tampa and what city, as a matter of fact. So when you kind of get into that. But what I wanted to show after this, so first and foremost, let's go back up to the governor. Shout out to just floating the idea. I love this. And one of the things for anybody who's watching this is like, well, they're just trying to get reelected. Mr. DeSantis cannot run for governor again. So that is very interesting. Now, what happens with it, I don't know. It's a initiative. It's not even a proposal yet. This would have to be proposed, put in front of the state legislator, and then moved forward from there before we would be able to vote on it. But man, I am very, very interested in how this could potentially turn out. And I want to talk about some of the taxes when we get into this. But I got a great chart here. Visual chart, if you will, from the Market Distillery, which this is a professor. He does a great job putting market details together. But this shows the highest property taxes by state. And oftentimes, Stacy, we get asked this, right? And, when you're local and you've seen your taxes increase by 48% or whatever that number was here, right? That is definitely a big lift. And I'm right alongside of you guys. And we're going to talk about homestead exemptions and property taxes in Florida here in general, which will help you really get some perspective. But this is a wonderful visual representation of what actually is going on in the United States. Wow, that got way closer than I thought. Okay. So, we look at this green, bright green is the lowest and the red is the highest. And like I said, the Northeast and the Midwest have the highest taxes. I've shared my story before, y'all. When we left Detroit 6 years ago, or Michigan 6 years ago, if I wanted to buy the same house that I bought in Tampa, that home would have cost me $13,000 in property taxes in 2018 when we left. Stacy, that would have been a $500,000 home. I'm sorry, a $380,000 home back in the suburbs of Detroit. Okay, 13 grand. This is astronomical. Okay, yeah. Now the home that I have now is valued somewhere around six. My taxes are valued like six something, and I'm paying $8 grand, which is not a small number, but relative to the value of what I was going to pay is dramatically different, right? Yeah. And oh, by the way, I don't have a state income tax. So for us, even though our property insurance is probably $1,000 more than I would have paid when we were living in Michigan, and my auto insurance doubled. It went from $2,400 to $5,000 annually. Actually, we just went down $300. Just renewed, got $300 discount. Shout out to that. So wow. It went up $2 grand.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect that.
Yep, it went up $2 grand as a whole. We made out. So I'm sharing this with you guys because, man, this is one of those big things that, people who have pensions, and that's why people moved here for years, right, Stacy? People would retire from the government. They would retire from the automotive industry or wherever they were. They would have a pension and they would move to Florida and become full-time residents because the cost of living was low. I'm saying that out loud because it was lower for everyone at that time. And taxes were fairly inexpensive. And what has begun to happen, because property values have skyrocketed over that time period, is that our senior citizens are the ones who are really impacted the most, and obviously people who earn a lower income. Okay, now I'm not on here to argue people's opportunities. Okay, y'all, I'm an entrepreneur. You don't have to understand how I think. Okay, or you don't have to get a magnifying glass out to understand that. But I also understand things. What I mean by that is, like, if you went and worked 30, 40 years and you were made a promise and someone has made changes to that, that's hard to swallow. Because y'all, when you do retire and you get a pension, that is the day you're going to make the most amount of money. And every day after that, inflation chews into that. So does things like property taxes and so forth and so on. Now, I'm just sharing where I'm at with this because I got to tell you, it breaks my heart to see homeowners, and I don't care what state you live in. If you're a homeowner and you're retired, you're a senior and someone that our society has said we're going to take care of, and all of a sudden you can't make your tax bill, or you got to make a decision between drugs and your tax bill when we're not even supposed to be taxed to begin with. I know everybody forgets this, but our country threw a freaking fit and fought another country over a 2% tax increase. Like, how we forget the little things, right? Like, but that breaks my heart, and I really don't want to see that. And what I understand is like, that's not doable for a lot of people on fixed incomes. Is that fair to say, Stacy?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not in here saying that we should tax the rich to give to the poor. None of that stuff. However, what I recognize is I'm still fully in production, and those people, a lot of them don't even have the physical capacity to go out and get back into the workforce to pay their property taxes. We've got to figure something out. Okay. Now, what that is, I don't know. I would like to see budget cuts, right? I know there's waste. There's a huge conversation happening around where waste is happening in our governments, and I have no doubt that happens locally too. So that's the first place I would love to see it come from. Okay, first place. Now, what I don't personally want to see is our education, our city services, both police and fire. I don't want to see any of that messed with, personally. Okay. Now, I don't know how they would replace that portion of the budget, Stacey. I honestly don't have a clue, right? So you got economists saying, if you go back to the article, economists say that the money's got to come from somewhere. Well, it does if you're going to keep your current spending habits. There's no doubt about it. The money's got to come from somewhere. And they think that what will happen is we'll increase the state sales tax. Now, while I don't want to be taxed more, what I do love about that as a strategy, okay, and I know there's arguments, pros and cons for both. What I like about that as a strategy is if you spend more, you're going to end up paying the taxes. But you have control. And let's be honest, do a lot of senior citizens, right, or homeowners who are in jeopardy of losing their potential properties over the next few years, do they spend less money on average, Stacey, than you and I would on a daily basis?
Yep, that'd be safe to assume. Yeah.
Right. So even though it could affect them there, ultimately you're in control of your spending. Okay, that is one positive way to look at it. Again, there are absolutely going to be negative impacts. I'm not here to get in the weeds with that. I would love to know your guys' thoughts on this, though. I understand. I'm open to dialogue on this. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying this is right. But what I am saying is I am a proponent of less taxation every day of the week, right? And if we can take this burden off of our homeowners, because y'all, let's be real. I know that not everybody understands this, but affordability is going to this is not going away. Even when interest rates go down, if we sit here and think that homeowners insurance over the next decade is going to become cheaper, we are fooling ourselves. And I'm not just talking about Florida. Look at California. Read an article this morning said, Stacey, that they're having more challenges now with flooding policies than they are fire policies. Detroit got flooded today, right? From the city water main. Kentucky flooded. Like, this is going to continue to be an issue in the United States. Now, that reform is going to have to take place in a different place, right? Government, I don't know what they're going to have to do. Again, I'm not involved in the politics of it, but man, there's a challenge happening there. So that's the first thing is insurance. But then you bolt taxes on top of this. It's not going to be long before taxes and insurance are the heaviest portion of somebody's payment on their monthly mortgage. And if you have a 2 or 3% interest rate, that is most likely your scenario or close to it at this point. I would love to know, for those watching, if any of you have a higher tax and insurance bill than you do the principal and interest on your mortgage. Let us know in the chat. Stacey, I'm fascinated. I mean, this is a serious difficulty. And again, I watched my grandmother and grandfather both work in the auto industry and walk away. My grandmother's pension was cut in half. And I'm not here to argue unions and none of that stuff, y'all. Again, I'm an entrepreneur, right? I get it. But I am all for getting rid of waste. And I am definitely for revisiting how we tax our residents with property taxes. Because y'all, these things are brutal. Okay. Now I want to get into some of the specifics with the state here, but Stacey, what are your thoughts on this, on this? I won't call it a proposal because it's not that, but this initiative, right? What are your thoughts on the initiative so far?
Well, of course it sounds great, but like you said, where's the money? Money has to come from somewhere. Where is it going to come from?
Yep.
And what services are going to be affected?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, again, whenever you start slashing somebody's budget, Zig Ziglar used to say it, right? Bad salespeople got skinny kids. Right. And that's going to happen in government if you got to, remove tax bills. I mean, y'all, I pay like almost $8,000 a year in my property taxes. Okay. And that is a big number. Now, 40% of that goes to the school. No, it's more than that. It was like 40. I don't have my tax bill in front of me. I think we paid $4,300 to schools, Stacey, directly to the Pinellas County schools. Mm-hmm. So the remainder of that would have been for things like fire, police, and roads, right? Because they break it up on your tax bill here. And I want to get into more details here on this. Let's go to the comments real quick, Stacey, because I know people are chiming in on this. This is a hot topic. I understand it. I realize that not everybody's going to agree with our opinion or the governor's idea here. And again, I can't really argue the merit, but I am for right? Less taxation, especially on properties, because of the impact that is having on our seniors directly, right? And that is very, y'all. It's just, I don't want to go back on our word ever to anyone, and that's difficult, right? Very, very difficult. So let's get into this. I want to say hello to everyone who joined late. Good evening, Mr. Kemp. Good to see you, sir. Bill asked, how do you like Riverview? Love that. He said it's one of the places he's looking at with his family. Fantastic. Jane says, wow, I thought San Diego, California has some of the highest tax rates. I guess with all the extra taxes from California is high. California will actually penalize us 3% for moving out of California. This is what I'm talking about. It's nuts, right? Depending on what tax bracket you're in, California can tax up to 13.5% on your income, y'all, which is insane. That's insane when you think about it, right? Now you got to be in specific tax brackets, but yeah, they have the luxury tax on properties now. When you sell them, it's a whole thing out there, and it is pretty abusive. There's no doubt about it. But yes, you're not in the top. You are by dollar amount, but not by percentage, Jane, which is interesting. LJH will hurt businesses, lower the freaking home prices, and the taxes go down. DeSantis is in bed with the counties. And I appreciate the comment. I do want to tackle this directly. How do you propose you lower the home prices, right?
Mm-hmm.
The government is not in control of lowering home prices. They can clear some of the red tape, the bureaucracy out of the way, and reduce the initial expense of permitting and delays due to that process. And that would help reduce the cost of building. But a home, people are going to pay what they're willing to pay for that property. That's the way it works, right? So that's not up to the government to do this. And while I would love, you always want property values to go down when you want to buy, and you want them to go up when you own, which is crazy, right? It doesn't really work. When your property values are up, you buy high too. But I appreciate the comment either way. But again, they're not in control of those prices. Okay, that's not how it's going to work. You need homeowners to say, I'll take less for my home. And last time I checked, they're not willing to do that, right? The beach guy says tariffs. Well, tariffs are they're one way, but how does the local government going to tariff you, Dave? That's right. Like they're going to do that by toll roads like that. How raising the sales tax? We have to figure that. We don't know yet, right? Here's what my gut's telling me, that my city and my local government is not going to take a haircut. They're not going to let jobs go, so we cannot pay property taxes. Again, I don't want to see anybody lose their job. I also don't want to pay for nonsense. So you're in this conundrum, if you will. So good local tariffs will be the way we take care of that, right? That's a good one. All right, Daniel says, I would love to see property taxes go away. Our income is taxed by a used car someone else bought and get taxed. Yeah, literally everything. Florida needs Elon to balance the budget. Well, yes, the tax. I mean, y'all, the taxes is bananas. I mean, you're taxed over 50% of your income in this United States. You know what I mean? Like, think about it. Seniors are paying taxes on Social Security, and then they are penalized if they make more than a certain dollar amount, which is like 25 grand. Who can live on 25 grand?
Yeah.
I mean, it's nuts. And I'm not even here. Like, listen, I'm not a senior citizen, but the math is not difficult. Well, hold on. So these people pay taxes their whole life. Now you're giving them that money. It's not like you're refunding their money that they paid in. And you did a horrible job of managing it because you're only giving them pennies on the dollar. If you'd have put it in the S&P 500, it would have been worth 5 times what they put in there, right? Shout out to the government who does a poor job on everything, right? So like, don't even get me started on this. Danielle, this is like, it gets me such a hot, worked up about the mismanagement of funds. And this is why reform is necessary. And I'm a big proponent of again, the taxes. We got to figure this out. So I'm on your team there. Tim says, of course, if I buy something, I'm willing to pay more sales tax. Once a person pays off their house, it should be theirs. Unfortunately, you never truly own your home. That's right. Oppressive is the absolute word. And this is a huge point, Tim. Listen, y'all think you own your home? Stop paying your property taxes. Right? In 3 years, the government comes to take that away from you. And then they sell it at auction. And oh, by the way, then they'll send you a 1099 for your failure. Congratulations. So I'm with you, man. It's nuts, right? It's nuts. Abby says 1% total assessed value of the home cap in Indiana, $400,000. Okay, so that's good. That's actually a really inexpensive property tax. Capped is great. And I'm sure that's for homestead. You probably have something different for non-homestead if you have that exemption. We're going to get into that here shortly, guys. So bear with me. We got to really, I'm going to work through this with you. If you're a Floridian or you're considering moving to the area, this is very helpful because listen, this is an idea. It's an initiative. It is not law, but I am here for it. I'm excited for it. So if you're just joining us late, welcome to Living in Tampa Live. We're talking about the hottest topic of the day here in Florida. DeSantis wants to ban property taxes in Florida, and we are all for it. Let's go. Thanks, Abby, for the conversation there. Desiree says, at Jane, New Jersey charges you to move out of the state. Also, this is nuts. You guys have the highest property taxes, and they charge you to leave. What is happening? Y'all, Florida is calling. It is waiting for you guys. That is crazy. Craig says, on eliminating property taxes, could we increase hospitality tax on hotels, rental cars, theme park? That's a good question. A lot of the state's revenue here is generated by tourism. We generated $145 billion from tourism last year, which was, I think, a record or the second most, which is bananas. And we have that in place already. That takes care of a lot of things. We have toll roads, those kinds of things as well. But like overall, our taxation in Florida is pretty darn good. Would you agree, Stacy?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. That's you guys. I love when you guys share this stuff with us, by the way, because we don't know everything about everywhere else in the country. We know what our clients say. We show up on the Zoom calls with the people considering relocating the area, and they inform us of some very unique situations sometimes, and it's fascinating to us. It's fascinating. All right. Mr. Wallace says, I live in Illinois. The property tax in the south suburbs of Chicago are brutal. My mortgage payment went up $400 due to a property tax increase in my area. $400 in 1 year. Right? So that's what, $4,800? Holy cow, man.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Holy cow. All right. Craig says, shift that cost to tourists, vacationers. Yeah, I mean, listen, man, I'm willing to contribute on the sales tax. I mean, I would rather not see any of it happen, to be honest with you. But I don't want to give, personally, as a resident, I don't want to give up fire. I don't want to give up police. We have a great, y'all, our like Pinellas County, where I live, right by the beach, the Pinellas County Sheriff is one of the largest employers in the county. And man, I'm telling you right now, I've got 2 county sheriffs that live in our neighborhood alone. I never feel like I'm anxious or those guys are too far away. And I love that about where we live. That was not the case when I lived in Metro Detroit, let me tell you. So I'm a big fan of that, but I'm with you on both sides, man. Like, what can we do to make that happen? Because honestly, the tourists coming in, I would expect that. Like when I go to Mexico or I fly out of the country, I'm expecting to pay all those taxes, especially when I'm staying on grounds. It's part of my vacation process, my mindset. So I'm with you on that, Craig. It's a good one. All right. Dave says, we import from international companies. We do. You're right on that, Dave. Dave just gave a good point of reference. Here in Tampa, we have a port, so we can get those tariffs and we can grab some more revenue there. So you're right on that. I don't know what those are currently, but that's a good point, Dave. I'm gonna have to look that up. All right. Bill said, Green Ranger, I love the Riverview. Insulated inland enough from most of the storms and a reasonable drive, 1 to 2 hours less from pretty much everything. Reasonable housing values for the money. Love that. He says, just be careful of the HOAs and insurance everywhere in Florida compared to New York, where I'm from. Though it's amazing down here. Love that. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right. Corey says, I think the proposal by DeSantis, which it's initiative so far. I know we're used to saying proposal, but it's not quite to that level yet. I think the initiative by DeSantis has legit weight. So do I. We agree, Corey. We're on your team, my man. But we will need more restructuring to make it feasible as well, to take care of the school city. Doge is about to bring a lot of light. Well, yeah, man, I'm on your team with that. You guys got great questions. Stacey, we got more stuff to get to. Got more stuff to get to. All right. Mr. Wallace says, we did that one already. All right. Oh, he says, I live in Illinois in the south suburbs. Yeah, we did that. Sorry. Thought we missed that. Will having no property taxes make prices more? Well, that is TBD. It should not. Well, here's correlation and causation are two different things, but let me share what I think is going to happen. Because this is a great question. What do you think, Stacy? Pretty good question, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
If property taxes go away in Florida, how busy do you think we're going to be, Stacy, with relocations?
Oh my gosh. Like I can't even imagine how much more busy we would be.
Correct.
Like
and so
crazy.
Yeah. Having said that, Brian, if I just follow the rules of supply and demand, or Mr. Green Ranger, if I just follow the rules of supply and demand, if your month, so what that means is let's just say you buy the average home in Tampa Bay, 500,000, then you're paying 1.75% taxes, which would be on the high end. What we always quote that as a conservative. So what's that number? It's 8750, right? If you could take 8750 and divide that over 12 months, Stacy, what does that do? 8750 divided by 12. That's $729 additional dollars that you could add to your monthly payment on purchase price. So a $500,000 buyer could probably now afford a $600,000 house. I'd have to run that number specifically. So I'm answering you in the way that I see economics work. Typically, people don't reduce their lifestyle. Some will, but what that really means is now you can afford more house. And if people are running from other states to us, well, remember
that's tricky.
Yeah. The pressure is because there are going to be other people fleeing other places to come hide their money and protect it, because that's what they're doing. That becomes a preservation of capital, right? So if you want to keep your lifestyle the same, you're going to come hide your money here. I don't say hide it, but you're going to come protect it here, right? So what I think will occur is that home prices would actually go up. Now, will it happen overnight? I don't think so. I don't know what percentage. It definitely would not push them down.
No. The whole supply and demand thing.
Yep. He said it himself, more demand. I agree, right? I agree. All right. You guys are great, man. If you're just joining us, we're talking about DeSantis wanting to cut property taxes. Go back and rewatch, because we showed some visual stuff, which I thought was awesome. I'm going to get into homestead exemptions in Florida, what the current structure is, so you guys can have some insights on that. Hugo says they should cut government expenses instead of trying to increase other. Yeah, dude, I'm with you. I cannot. Inflation is real. We all have to deal with that. So I understand that any government entity that is already in place is going to feel the same effect that we are as citizens with inflation. That is real. Okay. But we're down to 2.3% or 3%, whatever the, core PCE, whatever they're spouting today. We're not at 8-10%, which is what these guys are trying to jack your property values up on every year. Right now in Florida, they can only increase your property taxes on your primary home. Okay. And I want to make sure that we're on the same page here. I'm going to show you guys something right now. Okay. Because this is important. We have what's known as the Save Your Homes Act here in the state of Florida. And this comes to us from the Market Distillery, which is another it's a professor here. He writes great data. But this is, we share this with our clients. We're just about to send this email out to our clients, actually, because they are due to file for their homestead exemption. I want to walk you through this. In the state of Florida, okay, the government cannot increase our taxes more than 3% or the rate of inflation, whichever is lower, once you've made this your primary homestead. Okay. Now you can only have one primary homestead exemption in the country, and the Florida will recognize that. So if you own a home in New Jersey and you own a home in Florida, you can't make the Jersey one your primary residence and your Florida. And if your Florida was your second residence here, the county can tax you at whatever they feel like doing. That's how you see those big increases. Remember when you saw the 9.5% raise? Well, there's a lot of second homes here, third homes, right? So they increase those. But on Stacy and my taxes, Stacy's she either did already file her homestead exemption. I'll let her explain this in a second. Or she's about to, because she has until March 1st to get that done. In Florida, we pay our taxes in arrears. So if you bought a home in 2024, let's say you bought a home in January 2024, that tax bill will show up on your doorstep usually around November. And you have until March 1st to pay that without any penalty. And then they start charging you interest, I think, after that to get it done. Now, you get a homestead exemption. Okay, what does that mean? They can't raise your taxes any more than 3% or the rate of inflation, whichever is lower. That's freaking awesome. Thing number one. Right, Stacey, I'm a big fan of that. Also, it helps keep our insurance costs lower because right, Stacey, what happens if you file for your homestead exemption with your insurance company? They're only allowed to increase your rate at the what? The resident rate or the second homeowner rate?
The resident rate.
Yes, which if you're not aware, last year, Citizens, which is the state insurer and my insurance company, they had an increase of 15%. If you did not, if it wasn't a primary, Stacey, it was 40%. 40. So you better believe my butt was happy to only get that 40. Now they tried giving me the 40 because they had not received a copy of my primary homestead exemption yet. But when I sent it over, guess what I got? A really nice adjustment to the tune of 20%. Right now, I'm sharing this because it's super important. But let's get into the homestead exemption, Stacey. Help me help the crowd here and help them understand what a primary homestead exemption entitles them to here in the state of Florida.
Well, how much do you get for a homestead exemption?
That's right. What does that mean? So for the homestead exemption, if you are single, meaning not married, you would get up to a $25,000 exemption off your primary residence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you're married, you get an additional $25,000. It'd be $50,000. Okay. There's also portability. I know we talked about this before. You can port a portion of your tax bill, which is awesome. So if you had lower taxes and you moved into a higher bracket, you can take $500,000 of that portability and move it into the new property, which is pretty interesting. I'm not going to get in the weeds on that. But the big thing here is it caps what they can increase your tax rate at. That is the most important thing to understand when it comes to the homestead exemption. And it caps what an insurance company can increase, the maximum increase they can possibly give you as well. Those are huge benefits. Okay. Mm-hmm. Huge benefits of homestead exemption. Again, it's due March 1st. So if you're one of our clients that we've already served, make sure you do this and make sure you send a copy to your insurance company because it is so important. And Stacey, you can do this online in almost every county in the state, right?
Yeah, I think we did it online. We did the portability thing. My husband did it. I didn't do it, but I think he did go in because it's kind of confusing. So
the portability
better. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it is super easy.
Yep. And that's great. And I love that. They also, the state of Florida recognizes disabled veterans. If you're a 100% disabled veteran, you already do not pay property tax in the state of Florida. So shout out to those who have served. Right. And I'm great. Listen, if I have to keep paying taxes somewhere, I want it to be for those people. Okay. So I'm one team here, right, to make that work. So I love that. But this is something that I want to make sure everybody's aware of. If you're considering moving to Florida, this is something you need to be aware of. If you meet with us and our team, we'll talk about the homestead exemption. Again, Stacey's getting ready to send this email out to our clients along with this information, making sure that they file for that homestead exemption so they cannot have their taxes increased more than that 3% or the rate of inflation, whichever is lower. And they can make sure that they lock in their insurance rates as a resident as opposed to a second property, which is two different things. So these things are super important. If you were not one of our clients and you bought a home here, make sure you do that. All right. Make sure you do that. But this is super important, right, Stacey?
It is, because you don't want to get that tax bill and be like, oh, crap.
You do not want to get that tax bill. And I've got another really cool thing to cover here in a minute that DeSantis is trying to get accomplished. But I want to get back to the crowd here and all of the comments that you guys and the questions you've had. It's been wonderful. We're talking about DeSantis has an initiative on the table to eliminate Florida property taxes. And I'm telling you right now, getting 60% vote in this state with this is not going to be a difficult thing to have happen. So that's what it'll take in order for that to occur. But I love it. All right, let's get into this. Let me see here. Vlad says Florida has way too much tourism, and that's how it offsets property taxes. Not that difficult. Always up for less taxes. Yeah, and dude, again, I think we'll generate more tourism if we reduce the property taxes too, because people are going to be coming here home shopping. So that's going to be a thing. Absolutely. Danielle says in Italy, they have to pay an additional local tax per night that hotels and hotels and I'm assuming that's like Airbnb. Something like that in tourism is so big. I agree. Again, I go to Europe. I would expect to pay that type of thing. Right? Wouldn't you, Stacey? It's not out of the realm. Traffic in Riverview is crazy. There you go. You got some insight, Green Ranger. Traffic everywhere is crazy, Nikki. We're with you on that. I agree. Love this. Dave's dialed in. He says we import $112 billion worth of products. Great show, by the way. Saying hello from Indian Shores. My man, you're my neighbor, by the way. We're at Indian Rocks. We're right around the corner from you. Love it. Fantastic. Is it realistic or just something we're fantasizing? You know what? Right now, here's what I'll say. This is such a good question, Z. I think the temperature and the climate of the country, if he can get this to a vote, I don't think there's. Listen, again, you're not going to have difficulty getting this passed. Again, the residents in Florida residents came here because we believe that this is the freest state. And yet, we can argue that 6 ways from Sunday. I know people, personal freedoms, and everybody's got their opinions, and that's fine. But we are extremely business friendly here, right? And we are extremely resident friendly as well. And if that wasn't the case, we would not be up to 24 million residents and still continuing to grow. So I think in this state, if this gets anywhere near a vote, it's going to be a landslide. Okay, now that's an opinion. Doesn't make me right, y'all. Doesn't make me right. Mr. Wallace says, that was a monthly increase of $400. My Illinois property taxes are over $11,000 a year on a $400,000 property. Good Lord. All right, my man, we'll pray for you. Prices will go up 1,000%. People will come to buy in Florida. I don't know if it's when you say people can't afford things, they still magically do it. So but I agree. It's going to increase demand. What that number is, we don't know, right? But here's what I'll say. Personally, I would be willing to pay more upfront and know that what I own belongs to me and my family forever. That's why people came to this country, right? So I'm with you, Z. I do think prices will go up. I don't know what they would go up at. But either way, this is interesting. Going off your math, can all this go through in the next few months? Brother, I'm telling you right now, if I've never been a proponent of anything happening in the government where I felt like I would take a sign out and go like protest or petition for it, but like, dude, I'll go get signatures. Right? Me and my kids will be beating the drum up and down the street to try to get signatures for this. I am here for it. Dave says, put it this way. I was going to list 3 properties in Florida. Now at this news, I'll hold and see what happens. Yeah. I mean, dude, if you own it, it's the best asset in the world, right? Man, my man, I'm with you, Dave. That's like, I cannot stress enough. Like it's ownership. A lot of, getting back to the seniors, when I started talking about this and why I feel passionate about this, y'all, my neighbor next to me is wonderful. She is in her late 80s. They bought that home. It's been paid off for eons. They were, working class family, did everything that they were supposed to do. Her husband had a pension. He passed 5 years ago. This woman is paying taxes on taxes for taxes she already paid for, and her property taxes are bananas. It just doesn't make sense to me, right? It doesn't make sense to me. Heck, we pay to pick up our garbage, for goodness sake. You know what I mean? So like, we can figure this out. So I'm with you, man. I'm with you on this. All right. Bill says, Mr. Bernardi, good evening, by the way. Good evening. And I don't mean to look down, guys. I'm reading off the screen here for you. In Rochester, New York, I was paying almost $9,000 a year for a $175,000 property. Oh my God. Half-acre home. Here in Riverview, I'm paying about $6,000 a year on a $400,000 house. 100%. Do we need
And there's sunshine. And no snow.
Most importantly, it's not 6 degrees at home right now, Bill. You don't have to shovel sunshine, brother. That's what I tell everybody. And that's what's happening for you right now. So shout out to you. You made out like a bandit. I love that. He says, for all the newcomers moving to Florida, there's a lot of space in Okeechobee. And I, Craig, come on, man. For those of you watching, I will say this. Craig made a joke. You do not belong in Okeechobee. You do not want to live in Okeechobee. For those of you who do live in Okeechobee, God bless you. Congratulations. I don't know how that would happen in any world. Yeah, not a thing. It is a good joke though, Bill. It is a good joke. All right. Insurance is the big difference. Almost $3,000 homeowners insurance in Florida, and less than $1,000 in New York. There you go. Yeah. So you're still making out on the spread there. I wonder why you're at $3,000. Because we see definitely cheaper. But if your home's older, it would be. Mine is right around there too. So I'm with you on that. Jane says, if you own 3 homes in Florida, how does that work? Well, one of them could be your primary and the other ones would be a non-primary property. So you're taxed at a little bit different rate there. So you'd have to look depending on where you're going to own that property. Dave was mentioning there that he owns property as well. But again, when you own it, you own it. So that's the big thing, right? Like you're not getting a tax increase if there is no taxes on it. So that would be the huge advantage. This is again why I think, listen, y'all, real estate's always been a hedge against inflation. If people who have large sums of capital can make it go away by owning second homes, I only think it's going to be on the primary residence, by the way. That would be I think if they are going to float that, that's probably what's going to happen. Because otherwise that's when you'd see giant corporations like BlackRock and Vanguard. They're already buying houses in cash. They own less than 8% of the total real estate market in the United States, which is a huge number, by the way. Huge number. Don't get me wrong. But if there was no cap on that, we would be competing with those companies because they would be looking to shelter those funds in sure assets like that. So that's a great question. And I personally would want to see that with some kind of cap. Right. Second homes, third homes, at some level, there would have to be a break there. Right. Because that's a business owning homes would, I'm assuming they're going to treat it differently. Just FYI. But again, we haven't seen anything other than the quote, right? And what he's flown out there. He says, do you know when we should expect the mail from the email from our conversation? You should have received it already. So let me dig into that. Find out. It might be in your spam. We've been having a problem there. Spam. Yeah, we've been having a problem there, so we'll check that. But do me a favor, check your spam because we've had a little bit of an issue there. Okay, you guys got great questions, Stacy. They always bring the best questions. We got other news we need to get to.
You may have to save it till next week.
We can do that. All right. Stacy says, do you know, or I'm sorry, Desiree says, why do you know why the homestead exemption is more for married people? Knowing he's single, man, I can get an extra. Yes. Well, they ultimately, Desiree, they try to incentivize families. It's because they pay the most amount of taxes in general. So that is why. Typically that's put in place. But great question. And no one off the top of my head, but I got to be honest, we do get a lot of comments like, hey, where's a great place to meet singles? We get it all the time. It's such an interesting, I'm like, well, I'm not one. I haven't been on the market in a while. Not quite sure how I engage into that. But if you're watching this later and you are a capable male, Desiree is asking a quality question right now. Maybe the two of you can figure that out. Love it. All right, Zach, what's up, my man? He says, appreciate the info. A bit off topic. Have you ever seen anyone using financing for flooded homes or just HM or cash? HM stands for hard money, and technically that is financing. There are renovation loans on the conventional side for rehab and renovation. Those loans exist. You got 203K and 203K and 203KB, I think, on the FHA side. And I know there's conventional loans also, but there are other factors there, Zachary, like the FEMA rule. Where's the property? There are other things that you would need to be aware of on that. But it's a great question, man. Great question. You guys got such good questions. All right, Stacy, Jane says, hooray, my husband is retired military, 100% disabled. So our home will be, yeah, absolutely. You're not even, for the two of you, you served. Congratulations. It's one of the things I absolutely love about this state. I know a lot of states do this, but it's one of the things I absolutely love about this state. Shout out to you. Thank your husband for his service and yours as well. You're a military spouse. I know that ain't an easy life. So you guys, thank you for your service. We appreciate you. And y'all, if you appreciate our veterans, let them know in the comments, please, because we got more than one on this chat right now. And I'm an Air Force brat. My brother is still serving to this date. He's got 2 more years before he retires. My grandfather served, my father served, and couldn't be more proud to serve military. We have a service member on our team. She's incredible also. So we're happy to serve the families that serve us. Love that. So how does the homestead exemption work for a new build? Does it only increase off the land value then? Good question. Stacy?
Does it only increase off the land value then? No, off your assessed value, which would be the next year. So what if you, like I purchased in November, so I'll get my tax bill because we are paid in arrears the next year. And then I'll see the recessed value then. But I'll still get the 50 off of the assessed value.
Okay.
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. And to simplify this, the question that I think Danielle was asking for everyone here is like when they build a property at first, the builder is usually getting taxed at the land value. Okay, because the house isn't there yet. Now, that's on a new construction. If the home is ready to move in and it hit that tax season where it was reassessed, then it will probably be fairly accurate because our county does a good job. Our counties do a good job of assessing values. And in the state of Florida, it's the assessed value of the residence. Okay, so that residence includes both the land and the home. It's both of them combined. But if you haven't built the house yet, that's what Danielle's asking about. So yeah, that's what Danielle's asking about. Danielle, what the important part is you have a great team, both your lending team and your real estate team, who walks into a sales office with you and doesn't let the sales team try to pull one over on you. And I'm not saying they all do this, y'all, but Stacy, we've seen it before, right? When they try to give. So here's a shifty game that can work. And I'm not accusing people of doing this, but what I'm showing you is how to get creative with financing. If someone walks into your sales office and you work for a builder, first of all, you represent the builder, not the buyer. Okay. And in the state of Florida, we are what's known as a transaction broker. Okay. That's what real estate professionals are and the real estate licensee in a builder's office. Now, what that means is they represent the transaction, not the person. And if you only represent the transaction, you only have to tell people what's necessary about the transaction, not about everything. That's not the type of representation that you want. You want what's known as a single agent relationship in the state of Florida, which you do have the right to, but it's not the default. The default is limited liability for the builder and for the real estate broker. But you want a fiduciary responsibility from your agent to work on your behalf, to be loyal, forthright, and give you full disclosure. Okay? So why is that important? Because when you walk into that sales office and you want to buy the $600,000 house, but you can only qualify, right, for the 550, but they can qualify you on that property based upon the tax rate on the land only. And because they haven't had an assessment yet, you see how this is going? Now, I'm not saying anybody does this. I'm just saying that's one way it could work. But what usually happens is you're qualified for the full amount because banks don't want to loan money to people who aren't. But what usually happens, you walk in the door and they've been paying $400 in taxes on a property or $1,400. You buy a house and then the tax bill really should have been $8,000 for that house. Let's say you buy a $600,000 house. The taxes should have been $8,000 on that house that year, but you were only paying $400. And then your mortgage comes to you at the end of the year and says, hey, you got your assessment. You're $8,000 behind, or set in that scenario, it'd be $7,200 behind or whatever it is, right? So now you got to play catch up and they're going to increase your rate. Don't let that happen to you. When you walk in the door, if you're going to buy a $600,000 house in the state of Florida, assume that you're going to pay taxes on a $600,000 property. Mm-hmm. Okay. Again, you're going to get a homestead exemption But if you walk in there and they try to give you an escrow that's only $1,400, time out. I know my taxes are going to cost me about $8,000. We need to fix this. And now you'll have a correct payment and you won't get slapped with a giant escrow shortfall at the end of the year. Right, Stacey?
Yeah. And I think too, what happens is that, when you're building new construction, it's so much information and you can get overwhelmed by it. So maybe it was brought up, but it was, forgot with all the other information. So it really helps to have someone there on your side to help guide you through all that, because it can easily be, shoved under the rug.
Correct. Remember, transactional, which means they treat it like a transaction. Okay. You want somebody who's going to work as a fiduciary on your behalf, who's going to share you all the pros and cons, the challenges, right? You want to really make sure that you're protected on this. This is not a game, because this keeps happening. I saw another news story today in Texas where there's a neighborhood, Stacey, where they have what's called PIDs, which is similar to our CDD. It's the same. It sounded to me like it was the same thing. I don't sell in Texas, but it's paying for the infrastructure. That's what a CD. Well, apparently the home, now again, could have been a lot of information, overwhelmed, but the homeowner didn't know that was happening. And that assessment, right, hit their taxes at the end of the year, and they were mortified. It was like $3,000 or something like that. Additional that was added to their tax bill every year. And they didn't feel like they were aware of it. Again, I wasn't there. I don't know what the scenario is, but these things are important, right? And they even made the mention of the same question we had last week, was like, I would rather pay that up front, because the $31,000 total assessment for that PID that they had, Stacey, it was called a PID, was going to end up being almost $70,000 after it was financed over 30 years.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Those contracts are like, some of them are like 60 pages. So, there was probably a disclosure in there somewhere. It just, no one pointed it out to them.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. And this whole time, I forgot to tell everybody how to get hold of us. Y'all, if you want to get together and talk about real estate, we're here to help. That's how you get hold of us. You can call that number directly, text us that number. You can go to thattampalife.com, and then happy to jump on a Zoom call with you guys and walk you through the process. We got a few more things to get to here for sure. I definitely want to get to the comments. Thanks. Couldn't find it. I'll dig into that. We'll find out what's going on there. We have an offer. We have our first offer of the evening. I love Stacey. We're now playing matchmaking.
Doesn't he have plans to move to Florida?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Corey from CBus. Yeah, he's the man. We talk all the time on Instagram. He's great. Desiree, you got your first offer. I think that's fantastic. Zach says, thank you. You're welcome, sir. Jennifer says, veterans, thank you for your service. Absolutely. Jennifer, thank you for thanking them. We appreciate it. Brian, Mr. Cook, my man. Yes, we love our veterans. They're amazing. All right. Amazing if it happens. Meanwhile, in New York, they'll be creating a new tax to illegal aliens and oxygen breathing tax. Tax on taxes. Poor Stacey, we can't even see her face. The bubbles they got really big. I don't know what happened, but there's a change on the software apparently, because it's getting all crazy over here.
The whole look.
Yeah. I'm excited to look at the choices. That's great, y'all. Man, Stacey, I got to cover this one last topic. It's pertinent to this. Again, all the benefits about living here in Florida. If they are able to abolish property tax, again, I'm here for it. I'm sure there will be something's going to have to give. There's going to be a give and take. I don't know if they'll be able to remove all of it, but man, that would be an incredible win for homeowners in general. But this one thing did come up, and I want to share this. There's the My Safe Florida Home Act that was put in place last year, where you could apply, and almost 29,000 homeowners applied and received up to $10,000 each to replace their roof or install impact-resistant windows or storm doors in their home, Stacey. And the government, DeSantis is seeking another $590 million in order to roll this program back out, because there's a waiting list for it, and they would like to do that. I think that's really cool. And what they did do, which I thought was cool, before they just had it wide open. Now they've made an adjustment that says the laws that were added last year set aside the first 60 days for applicants with low to moderate incomes. I actually think that that's cool.
Yeah.
Right. Again, I would love to get it, but I want to see it go where it can have the most impact if it's going to go somewhere. And then if there's some left over when we decide to do that, awesome. I'll try to take advantage of it. Maybe, I don't know. We'll work on that. But I think that that's a really cool way to put that together, because there are people who have I'd rather seen that money go to a senior like we're talking about right now, or a low income family that can't afford. I mean, y'all, impact windows you ain't putting impact windows on any house for 10 grand. Right? It ain't happening. But if you can put a couple storm doors up or something like that, or get your roof, a portion of your roof replaced, I think that that's wonderful. So I think that that's great. All right. What do you say? Where can we find this info on property tax from DeSantis? It was a quote on X, but I will share with you the article. Let me do that right now, y'all. Good question. I'll share the article directly with everyone here. Oh, this one's a paid site. I'll have to go to the free site and put it in. I'll put in the resources after the show here. If you guys are considering moving to the area and you want to have a deeper conversation about it, don't hesitate to reach out to us. All of our contact information is down below. Stacy and I have already talked to I don't know, 50 people, 60 people this year. It's been crazy busy. Who are considering making that move.
Lots of fun.
Lots of fun. Have you slept in the last 2 weeks? She's been running all over town. Where have you been with the clients so far? Like, what neighborhoods? Where you at right now?
Well, what's funny is I have to look at my calendar to remind myself where I'm, because it's all becoming a blur. But no, we've spent a lot of time in Parish. That's a really nice area that is developing.
Yep.
So it's very attractive to people. Wesley Chapel, of course, is still booming. There's lots of growth still going on here. Vida's Way in Wesley Chapel is a really hot community right now. Yep. Chapel Crossing in Wesley Chapel. Two Rivers is going to be an amazing neighborhood. That's in the Zephyr Hills area, and it's going to expand over into Tampa. So we're going to have a private golf course over there. And Wesley Chapel Parish seems to be the hot spot. A little bit of Lakewood Ranch too. So
yeah, a little bit of Lakewood Ranch. Love it. Well, Jane, thank you. We appreciate it. And Stacy, you didn't tell me I was smacking on my gum all night long. Totally forgot I had it in my mouth. Forgive me, y'all.
I didn't notice.
Good. I'm like, I just realized I did not remove my gum before we started this evening. Well, I love this, y'all. If you are considering making a move, we're here for you. All right. So right on that screen, I'll put our Zoom link in the contact there, so y'all can check that out as well. We're happy to jump on a Zoom. I actually just got a text message from somebody who's watching right now and said, hey, I'm watching. Appreciate it. We love connecting with you guys. We had people in from Seattle last week. Where was everybody from that you were with specifically?
I had a family from the UK.
Yep.
Seattle, Las Vegas, Nashville. I have a family from Canada coming this next weekend. And Minneapolis.
Yep. And we're so blessed. So we just want to say thanks to each and every one of you for trusting in us and the team, whether it's Stacy or Madison or Sky or Charlene. And you guys are going to meet a whole bunch of the new crew here shortly. Again, we are, as much as I love each and every one of them, if you're watching, guys, I love you. But this audience is like our family, and we got to move slow. we got to move slow. They're excellent. Man, they're already, Madison's been with us for 3.5 months, I think now, and she's already just tearing the cover off the ball. Skywalk right in the door has just been super helpful as well. So we've got people all over Tampa Bay right now helping you guys make this Tampa life a reality, and we're so very grateful for it and thankful for the opportunities. And we sign off every single time and say thank you, but as always, every single time, go out
and live that Tampa life.
Live that Tampa life. We'll see y'all. Have a great evening.
Good night.
See you soon.